Whoever buys your shirts does a really good job. My name is Dennis DiSabato. In lieu of a long bio, which Ron did not have the luxury of having today because I was an impromptu guest speaker, I'm a graduate of Binghamton University, 1996, with a Bachelor of Arts in English. A graduate from New York Law School, 2004, with a Juris Doctor. I practiced in New York for a couple of years before deciding to relocate to the South Carolina area to be closer to my family, who had been down here since 2001. I opened up my own law practice in 2007, shortly before the economic bust, the real estate bust that we had. The primary focus of my practice is real estate transactional work, along with corporate work, commercial litigation, and some estate planning. So I'm more or less a business lawyer. And I am a business lawyer because I have a lot of experience in small business, coming up through the small business ranks with my family. My dad's been a small business owner for my entire lifetime. And the reason why I got out of New York and practicing for other people was because I realized very shortly into my career that I had the small business bug. I needed to control my own destiny, which is why I came down here to start my own practice. I recently got engaged to the lovely lady Laura Luce back there. She's sitting next to the other lovely lady, my mother, Elena DiSabato. I wasn't expecting either of them to be here. In fact, I came with this not as lovely looking gentleman, Nate, who was with me this afternoon working in the district, doing signs and going door to door. And then I was surprised. I got a text message from Laura that said, "Look behind you," and she was sitting there, and that is why I love her. So thank you for coming. I am running for House District 56. Some of you may know that I ran against the incumbent 2 years ago. A lot of people in this room may have supported the incumbent 2 years ago. It was a very narrow election, and by all accounts, this one is going to be very narrow as well. But the reason why I've decided to run again is because, in my opinion, and I think in many of your opinions, if you take a look at his record, is the rhetoric that he told to all of you when he was running 2 years ago was not met by his record of service. And I'm not trying to be negative, but I think it is important to compare and contrast candidates based on their record of service compared to what their ideas are. And I think my ideas are far more conservative and far more important to this district than Mr. Rao's record is. And we'll just take a look at a few of those things. I think we need some true conservative leadership in Columbia. There's a tremendous amount of waste at all levels of government. As Mr. Dunn was saying, the federal government, there's a tremendous amount of waste in the state government as well. In the last session, my opponent has voted to override the governor on all of her wasteful spending deals. The tip of the iceberg is about $3 million in pork and special interest projects, none of which benefited Horry County. We're looking at things like $200,000 for outreach funds, which allow legislators to go on hunting and fishing trips. $500,000 to the Arts Bureau. $200,000 to help rebuild a courthouse in a county that's nowhere near Horry. I just don't think that is what we want from our representatives in Horry County. We want them to be responsible with our money and not spend it on things that don't benefit us, quite frankly. We are one of the largest donor counties in the state. We send more money to Columbia than almost every other county in the state. We get very, very little of it back to help our municipalities do the things that we need to do. The district I serve, which includes parts of Carolina Forest, Conway, Longs, the major roadways through there, Carolina Forest Boulevard, Highway 90, Highway 905, they're woefully underserved. We need turn lanes on Highway 90, turn lanes on Highway 905. We need widening of the roads in Carolina Forest. And there's just not enough money to do that. And if we don't have legislators in Columbia working together to bring our tax revenue back home where it belongs, then those things will never happen. We need police officers. We can't hire police officers because the local government fund is being ignored by our legislators in the state. I think we need to send legislators to Columbia that are going to help bring that money back home. Help the municipalities do the things that are necessary to protect and serve the people of this district. You know, I talked about the local government fund a second ago. The local government fund is a state requirement by the state code that says that the legislature needs to send 4.5% of the general fund budget back to the municipalities on a per capita basis. That's the minimum. It needs to come back home so that we can hire police officers, hire judges, if there's anything left over, do things with roads. Since 2008, the state legislature has ignored the local government fund. And the reason why they've ignored it is because they said there's no, the funding formula that they use to come up with that figure is out of date. Well, that's fine. If it's out of date, then why have you not done anything to bring it up to date? And if you're not going to do that, then at least adhere to the law as it is right now. My opponent, along with the rest of the delegation, has again decided to kick that can down the road, and they voted to table the local government fund once again. So the minimum amount of money that should be coming back to Horry County is not. What I think is we need legislators that aren't going to sit in the back of the room and raise their hand and say, may I? We need people who are going to fight to make sure that the funds, the hard-earned tax dollars that we're paying to Columbia, come back. If you take a look at the roads, how many of you have driven on Ravenel Bridge and saw the roads that are in Mount Pleasant and Charleston? They're beautiful. The roads in Columbia are good. The reason why, and what scares me about that is that those counties that have these great roads have less public debt than Horry County does. I think that's a shame. I think it's something that our legislative delegation should be ashamed of. We have more public debt than those counties, and they have better roads than we do. Why is that? Why are we not sending people to Columbia who are going to fight to make sure that our fair share comes back home? Now, I'm not for raising taxes. I don't think it's unconservative to say that what we pay in taxes need to come back to this county at a minimum. And we need to send people who've got backbone, that are going to stand up and not say, may I, but are going to fight to try and bring that revenue back home. And that's what we need, and that's what I stand for. That's one of the things that I'd like to get accomplished. We need someone who's going to take action. In the last 2 years, my opponent has been the primary sponsor of just 4 pieces of legislation, and none of them directly benefited the district that he serves. One of the things that he's failed to address is water rates in the district. Now, I know this doesn't affect a lot of people, but it's important. There's a section of that district that is served, their water is served by the city of Conway. The city of Conway has not annexed that piece of the district. So by law, what they're allowed to do, because they paid for the infrastructure costs to serve the water, and they're giving water to people who live outside of their district, they are allowed by state law to charge up to 200% of what their in-municipality customers pay. So you've got people with water bills $600–700 a month in the summertime. Now, that to me is unfair. It's a windfall for a municipality that they're doing nothing but providing the water. That switch can easily be turned to Grand Strand Water and Sewer, and their costs would be reduced immediately by half. 2 years ago, I set forward a plan to address that issue. I said that if I'm elected, I will put legislation forward and fight to get it passed that says once that infrastructure cost is recouped by the municipality, they need to then sunset those rates and bring them back to what their in-city residents pay. I don't think that's unfair. I don't think that's unreasonable. That plan was laid out for Mr. Ryle 2 years ago, and in 2 years, he has failed to submit a single piece of legislation addressing that. Now, that's just an example of what I'm talking about with a failure to act on behalf of the people who live in his district. I know people who come straight up and ask them, why have you done nothing about this? And the answer is because I don't think I can get it passed. I don't think that's what we need from our legislators. We need somebody who's going to say, I'm going to put this forward, and I'm going to fight to get it passed. And even if I'm not successful, you're going to know that I'm going to continually fight to get things like this passed. And that's what I'd like to do. There's several pieces of legislation. I would have tripled the amount of legislation that he put forward to benefit the district and save the taxpayer dollars, and use the money that the state and the municipalities are collecting more reasonably. Constituent services. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a single town hall meeting, not a single newsletter, not a single survey, not a single constituent service day for anybody who lives in District 56. We are there to serve you. not to serve our own needs. In order for us to serve you, we need to make ourselves available to you. And I want to do that. I've made a promise to the people that I've spoken to throughout this campaign that if elected, I will have quarterly town hall meetings every year. I'll have them in different locations throughout the district. I'll have one in Carolina Forest, one in Conway, one up in Highway 905 area, so that people can come and they can let me know what their concerns are. What are the issues that are being taken up by Columbia that they're worried about? And then I can let them know, this is what I see happening, and I'd like their input so that I can take that input with me to Columbia. When a bill crosses my desk, I'm not going to make a decision based on what I want. I'm going to make a decision based on what you want. The first thing I'm going to look at is, what is the tax burden? The second thing I'm going to look at is, does the benefit that is being conferred by that additional spending outweigh the burden on the taxpayer? But third, and most importantly, what does the taxpayer feel about that bill? I want to know. I want to ask you, and I want that feedback, because that's how I plan on making my decisions. In order to do that, I need to be in front of you.